Welcome to the Voodoo Power Podcast. Welcome to Plates and Pancakes. We're sitting down today with Sean Greer. Coach Greer is the head strength conditioning coach for Winston Academy. Greer brings over 30 plus years training athletes privately to Winston, where he has been for the last 7 years. Coach Greer teaches P.E. and has coached football, baseball, softball, boxing, wrestling, and MMA. He is a member of the NHSSCA and has been a pastor for over 23 years. Greer is a graduate of Wood College with a bachelor's degree in physical education. So welcome to the show, Coach.
Man, excited to be here today.
Well, I'm glad to have you on. We've been friends on Instagram for quite a while, and then now we're finally getting set down to do this.
Man, hey, I've been looking forward to it since you called me up the other day. I was like, man, let's go.
Well, that's the one thing about your Instagram feed. It's a little bit different than a lot of the coaches I follow. You're down some different rabbit holes than a lot of guys.
Yeah, over the years, I've just kind of put, I call it a toolbox. As men, we have our toolbox, and we have some of our favorite tools that we use all the time. And then there's some tools we need just every so often just to kind of get a job done. And so, over the years, it's just kind of compiled a lot of different things. And I just kind of blend it all up, kind of like we do a good protein shake. We put a lot of extra stuff in there with the powder to make it what we want it to be. So that's kind of where we go with it here.
Now, the one thing that transfers through all of your videos is a violence of action, like
yes,
very Marinovich style. How did you end up there?
Well, I'll be honest, all the way back to when Tom Marinovich played football in high school. I can remember when they put up some videos of him and his dad training him, and the training changed shortly thereafter to more of what it is now. But, it caught my eye, like, this guy's different, and they're doing different stuff. So we're about the same age. I'm 51. I think he may be 52, 53, somewhere in there, but Todd, that is. And, so I caught on to that. And then, early 2000s, he started training Troy Polamalu. And Troy was one of the best in the game at that time. And he's in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the best ever to play that position. And I just saw how fluid he was, how athletic he was. There was something different. And it was all in that training, the training of the central nervous system, the feet, the everything being explosive. And, you look at violence. I did a thing last year for a strength clinic, and that was the topic, violence, being violent in your actions. And if you look at violence and people who are violent and how they do things, they're very relaxed in how they do it. And it's very just subtle, just wow, and it's, they've done what didn't need to happen, but it's things that you look at, and then you take them over to sports, and that, especially like a game of football, baseball. Baseball, you got a ball coming 80, 90, 100 miles an hour at you, and you got to be able to react in just a split second. 0.15 is what they talk about in plyometrics, being able to react in a 0.15 in a second, 1.15. That's that quick right there. This bam. That's how quick you got to be able to react. And the people who can do that the best are the ones who can react and relax. And the relaxation, I call it you got to relax, but you also got to be intense. So you're that quick flinch, like you were touching something hot. You don't just hold your hand on something hot. You touching, it's like reacting. It happens just boom, instantaneous. And that's what the Marinovich system really, in a nutshell, is all about. The ability to train the central nervous system in a way that it reacts like everything is hot. You're touching something that's hot. And I know Brian McGinty on Power Plus, he's one of the best with the Marinovich system. He studied under Gary, and Gary is the brother to Marv, and they together created what they call the Marinovich system. And, it goes off Berkoshansky, all the Eastern Bloc, a lot of stuff. if you look back like Charlotte Monks, you look at Jay Schroeder, we'll talk about here in a minute. I mean, a lot of these things intertwine if you go back and study the history of it. And you see the athletes that come from this are just, they're exceptional. I mean, they're different. They look different, they move different, they react different, and all of them are calm. They're calm and they're able to react in that 0.15.
That's the thing. The 0.15, that's harder to achieve than what you might think. And we set up, we got it from Fahey. It wasn't something we come up on our own, but we set up the triple hurdle hops.
Right.
Shooting for 0.15. And it takes a lot of time to get those athletes down there to that measure. So how are you timing some of this? Are you using jump mats? Are you using OVR? What are you doing?
I'm pretty old school. I go off the eye, and you look at a lot of Marinovic stuff. I mean, they do time stuff, but they have the eye to see that reaction. And I always think of it as, and Coach Parker, we were talking about him earlier, Coach Johnny Parker, he always said the best quality that you can have as a coach is the coach's eye. And, coming 30 plus years of doing this, so much of that time, there was no other, you didn't have anything else to look at, but pretty much the coach's eye, unless you were maybe over in Russia or one of those Eastern blocks where they had all the stuff that hooked up, kind of like we do now with jump mats and the plyo stuff and the timing devices that we have to be able to look at, all the colleges, a lot of high schools now have the iPad sitting up there, and, the green light is good, red light is bad, yellow light, you got to get faster, so I just go mostly off the coach's eye. And just, we're a school down here in Mississippi. We're not just don't have anything. We've had people help out, get things, but that's probably one of the next things we're looking at, is getting some things to go along to be able to see the timing on things, because I think for me, I can feel it. I can feel it when I do things. I can feel it, and that's what I try to teach the kids, because if they can feel it, they'll be able to duplicate it. And once they feel it, it usually doesn't go the opposite way.
Now, Marinovich, he used like a leverage squat machine that was isokinetic quite a bit.
Right.
I noticed in your videos you have something similar. Is yours isokinetic, or do you have to band it? What are you doing with yours?
No, it's actually the Super Cat. The original Super Cat was made by a dad who wanted his son to be able to jump higher. If I remember right, I think he had like an 18-inch vertical, and within, a process of time, it didn't just happen overnight, but within a process of time and using the Super Cat, and then, playing basketball and jumping and trying to dunk and all that kind of stuff, the combination. But the Super Cat helped him to get to it was a 1 or 2 step vert of like 53 inches that the kid got to. And it was pretty incredible. And I can remember my wife coached another high school. She coaches basketball, and I would help her and stuff. And I was still more in the private sector, I guess, training athletes, not necessarily in the school setting. Now, some I would, that I'd meet there and I'd help them with some things, but they had a Super Cat in this gym, and nobody ever used it. I just could never understand it. And what I found over time is that most people who have the Super Cat, they don't use them. They a lot of them just don't know what to do with them. Think maybe doing a calf raise or, maybe a squat up and down, but they don't understand that it is a violent machine. I mean, you can be as violent with that thing as you want to. You don't have to, the risk of injury is just, almost non-existent on it. So, and it's all concentric as far as the jumping and explosion stuff that we do. Now, we do use it for isometric type stuff and eccentric, real slow eccentric. We'll load it up and we'll apply extra pressure, things like that. But and that all goes together. You got to have the isometric, you got to have the eccentric, you got to have the concentric. All three of those things, and kind of the in betweens of all three of those things, you need as you develop athletes. But that jump machine, that Super Cat, I'm telling you, I had one of my church members Have been looking for some. It's hard to find them. They're not the company that made them doesn't make them anymore. They went out of business. I mean, not because I think they just kind of did their thing and got out of it. And they had several other machines that went with that, Super Cat and different things that I really like. And we're looking at maybe developing those down the road. But one of my church members actually built these for us. I guess it's 2 spring breaks ago is when we got them. And we got them on the Monday of spring break going out. We came up here and unloaded them, got them set up. And, man, the kids I had up here then, I mean, they immediately got on them, started jumping with them. But and you think about it as a lower body thing, but we can put benches up under, use it like an explosive bench. So you're getting the plyometric upper body lifts. You can press it overhead. You can one arm. You can switch. So it's a lot of different things that you can do with it. And man, they have been. We use them 3 to 5 days a week. I mean, my basketball players right now that come in, we get on there every day. Get them on there every day, and we're not necessarily the basketball school, but my guys are seeing, man, I can touch the rim now. You know, I couldn't touch the rim before. I couldn't even get to the bottom of the net, and they're seeing their vertical, you know, because most of them now, you're talking about almost 2 years of doing it. They have developed, along with the plyometric stuff we do, the tsunami bar, the regular stuff. I mean, you know, the combination. These guys are starting to see their verts go through the roof, and that excites kids.
That may be more than a lot of other things. I don't know what it is about jumping, but if you want to keep kids in the gym, get their vertical up.
Get that vert up.
Now, Marinovich also did a lot of like pipe walking and foot strengthening and different things. Do you employ that, or how does
we
that
do?
work?
I have a good many college athletes, a couple of NFL guys, stuff that come in and train, and we use it a lot with them. My younger guys, we're starting to learn it some, and we've used it to a degree. It's just kind of been the challenge of implementing, because we usually have groups. We're down in number a little bit now, but 2 years ago we had 62 kids in here at one time, and it's set up. I mean, we're set up to be able to do that. I mean, it's not just a huge room, but it's set up. We kind of run a conveyor belt like and have it set up where everything kind of plays into the other, and it doesn't really matter where you start. It all works in together and blends together. But you know, the pipe stuff, me personally, my kids, we do them a lot. I mean, because it takes your foot. Most people's feet are something like this now. You know, I mean, they're squished together, they're curled up, and what those pipes do, when you put them on that pipe, it spreads it out. Okay, so you're opening up that foot, you're opening up your ability to be able to grasp. You know, and that's what you want, is that ability right there to be able to grasp. And so many people's feet are so locked up, they don't have that ability. And, you know, there are still some that maybe can jump real high and things like that. But what the Marinoviches believe, and what that system believes, is that even though those people can do it, their foot is not able to, over time, uphold that. And they believe that that's where a lot of injuries happen, is the inability to you know, to be able to open up and to spread out, you know, when you land, and to be able to fire off. So that's why they use them also for balance purposes, and it helps you to be able to engage everything in the right linkage. You know, there's a page called Wrestling Prep, and the lady on there, it's wrestling, you know, but she talks about sequencing muscles and being able to sequence everything together. And when you do it, creates fluidity. And that's what the pipes start off with. You know, you're going from your feet up through your lower leg, up through your thigh, hamstring, your hips, up into your back, you know, all the way up through the body. And that's what the pipes really help you do, to be able to sync everything together.
That's funny you say that. So with the spreading of the feet. So tell you a quick story, and and then we'll go on to some other questions. But I had a kid, he was a senior, playing football. All of a sudden, he couldn't hardly run. Didn't know what was wrong with him. He just knew his foot hurt.
Yeah.
So he went to a podiatrist. They're like, you tore a tendon in your foot. Now, I have no training, so I wouldn't probably recommend this, but I asked him, I'm just like, can you move all your toes? Well, yeah. Can you move your ankle in all directions? Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. Do you feel anything in there that like it's rolled up or, well, no. I'm like, well, if you want to, we can temper it and see what happens.
Right.
So he's like, well, I can't get any more hurt. And, it's my senior year. I'd like to enjoy it. So we laid a big, heavy tempering roller on his foot. And like you said, what you could see was that foot was balled up really tight. That tempering finally got that foot to flatten out, and then it popped.
Right.
And then it took a couple nights of doing that, but he hadn't had any problems since. So if I would have known about the pipes, I probably would have started that way. But I didn't understand them. But I think he had shin splints really bad that summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that pulls on that foot really hard. And then it kind of locked up. Yeah.
It does. That's what happens a lot of times. And, our feet are the thing that's on the ground, and it's probably in a sense, we do train our feet, but we probably do it backwards a lot of times. We'll load them up real heavy and we'll do all these things, but we never take time to really strengthen the foot itself. And with those pipes, and they use the towel, the pool. And if you go any kind of rehab, I know our trainer uses I've seen him use the towel with some different ones over the years, and which we've been fortunate as we've progressed and we've dropped this thing down into K5. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of the development all the way now, where when we first came, I just saw kids that couldn't squat. And they didn't put no weight on their back. I mean, they couldn't squat. Their hips were froze like they were just wouldn't work. And it was high school kids coming into the 7th grade program. So we just had to really start from ground zero with that. And we're in year 7 now, and it's really just now you're really seeing the spin around the last 2 years or so. And you don't have in doing all these things, even if a kid, you can get in bad positions and your ankle gets turned up and things like that. I mean, stuff happens in sports. I mean, we talk about injury prevention. It's really, we need to be able to recover when things happen. I mean, we become more resilient to it through our training. That's really what we aim at, is being more resilient. Not that things don't happen. I mean, a lineman gets cut on the line of scrimmage, that knee is going in the wrong direction. He needs to be able to have some resiliency to do that. So we put our athletes in different positions, and the foot is the key. If that foot and that ankle can, if all that foot and ankle can do is this, and it can't, turn this way and that way and up and down, that's where everything goes. And if that ankle can bend because the foot's strong, which creates a strong ankle, and which creates everything down there, all the ligaments, tendons, and everything being able to grab up, do what it needs to do, then that athlete is more resilient in what happens to that knee or maybe the hip, as it works on up the line. But it all starts in the feet and the ankle, and you get that working right. And that's what we saw that just wasn't there. So it's been a process of getting those kids along the way, and we're kind of getting to that place now where the kids are coming in 7th grade, man, they can squat, they can, they have good range of motion and everything they do. We do a lot of feet stuff and hops and jumps and landings and all that kind of stuff coming up into that. So now they're better prepared.
That's where I've been looking lately. It seems like all the kids that have been coming in here recently all have a huge hip shift in their squat.
Yeah, right.
It'll show up in the goblet squat. It'll show up in their jumps. It shows up everywhere. And I'm starting to look more at wondering if it's a foot deficiency in there as opposed, or an ankle deficiency as opposed to something else. And it, I can't narrow it down to that, but I think there's good indication it could be.
Most likely it is. I mean, usually if, the foot's the bottom of the body, the foot's the bottom of the body. So if the foot's something's wrong with the foot, it's going to trigger it up. And, it's going to find the weakest link as it goes up. And that's what you see a lot of times with the kids. And that's what I'm seeing now. This is the third year, I guess I've been doing the physical education program, and, we might get in that some, but it's basically, I encourage the kids to play. I can remember at first, they just kind of walk around out there and not do nothing, and encouraging them to play. And I guess growing up, I mean, I'm 51, I came up through a good era that, you still got on a bicycle, rode bicycle, climbed trees, jumped off rooftops. I mean, I'm not telling you to go jump off rooftops, but I mean, we did that kind of stuff and we didn't even think nothing about it. We watched Superman do it, and, all the superheroes back during that day. And I think it just kind of triggers your mind to be like, hey, I can do that. And, you may start off something lower, but we've got stuff in the gym. We have the bleachers, and the bleachers are kind of like blocks, and we jump off, man. The kids will jump off, and they just get higher and higher and higher, and they're jumping, and there's no, they love it. And I think we've kind of created a society that has so safeguarded against things that our kids are getting stove up. I mean, some of our kids were looking like they were 70 and 80 years old, the way that they were moving. And it's a process because you have to get them to buy in. And the buy-in is when they see a difference, when they see improvement. And to be able to get that, you got to kind of lay out a plan where everybody can have some success in it. Some kids are going to be, they can just do whatever. That's just how it is. But then you got that kid that's down there on the lower end of the spectrum, maybe physically, maybe just hadn't moved as much, hadn't done as much, kind of sit on the couch or whatever you want to call it. And they start doing that, and they start seeing a difference, and they start like, you set them up and they win a race, or they finish something, and it just does something to them. And that's a big thing when we talk about getting a kid in high school, or even kids in college that can't move good. And it starts young. So if we can change the young, and if you look at most of the other countries that are real successful, and you look at the Chinese, you look at the Japanese, you look at the Russians, you look at as a matter of fact, we had a Russian taxi cab driver the other night. We got talking because I kind of have a background in MMA, UFC, and all that. And we got to talk about Fedor and all the different ones in that realm. And a lot of the MMA guys got, and that's kind of where I picked up too with saw all the MMA guys using the Marinovich system. And we got talking about how they came up through school and how they learned all these things that are implemented in their programs. And and I'm like, man, we don't really have that. It is some spots that we have it. And you look back at the 60s when Kennedy was going to implement it across the land with the physical education program, La Sierra High School. Man, that you look at those guys, you look at a lot of the videos, you've probably seen the videos that come up, and we kind of do that. That's kind of a foundation of our program. I was fortunate that we had basically that program when I came up through elementary school. It was something like that. We had ropes, we had the peg things, climbing on the walls, we had little obstacle courses set up, and we all could do push-ups and pull-ups, and we sprinted and jumped and did all the things. Jump rope. You give a jump rope to kids. I got some a few years ago. I was like, man, let me get some jump ropes around here. And I handed them the jump rope. They didn't know what to do with the thing. I was like, y'all don't know how to jump rope. But things that we take for granted, these other countries implement it, and they come through school doing these things. And it makes a big difference in the longevity of being able. You may can live to be whatever, but if you're not able to really live. I mean, to be functional, be able to get up, bend over, and pick up your kids and your grandkids, and tote the groceries in the house. I mean, things like that we've taken for granted, and it's a culture that we need. I believe in the whole country to be able to reevaluate, get back into that more, so that everybody has some kind of physicality about them.
Now, I could agree with that. And the more kids you see, the more deficiencies you see. And then now you're seeing it in early adulthood and then middle adulthood. You can tell when the drop off kind of happened.
Right.
And now at, 30, 40 years old, people can't get around. And it's like, I'm not going to say that's the prime of your life, but man, that's a pretty good time of your life being there. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, you want to still be able to function.
Yeah, right. So we've talked about a few different things in the Marinovich system, but the other thing that I've seen you use, and I know it was a big part of his, was the physio ball.
Right.
Now, how do you implement that?
All right. So the ball, it really helps you to learn how to be able to relax and how to be able to fire and be violent in a relaxed state. And, one of the things that you do on the ball is you put your right heel on the ball, lift your hips up so you're more, weight's kind of more on your shoulders. And then you want to violently kick that leg back. And in the time you're slapping that ball and you're reacting. So the moment that I hit that ball, I'm reacting back off of it. Now, once it gets back here, you kind of get that violent stretch, and what do you get in sports a lot of time? We look at stretching and, not that you just can't do some passive stretching every once in a while, bend over, touch your toes kind of thing, and, raise up and whatever. But when you get to sports, you want to train that right there. Okay. So I put my hamstring in an extreme explosive manner. So it's learning to take on that, to take on that violence that happens. And, we've been fortunate. I know here we have been fortunate. Hamstring issues have almost been non-existent. And, my older guys, that they're athletes, when they come in here, we do a lot of the Marinovich stuff, and we do a lot of the physio ball stuff, because those guys, I mean, they get plenty of the other stuff that goes on in college and stuff. With our high school, we want to build that resiliency. So when you use that physio ball, you're teaching the hips to do circles. So you would take say you have a foot here, you would hit it here, go back, come down, go back, come over, swing it across. So you're opening up the hips. The hips are able to open up. You think about DBs, receivers who have to cut on the dime, running backs, and even in the linemen. I mean, they still have to have that ability to move their hips. I mean, that's really the cornerstone of what an defensive lineman. If you don't have good, strong hips, you're in trouble. The hips are what helps you to be able to balance out as well. I mean, between your foot, knee, hips, those things have to be able to coordinate with each other. And that physio ball, for your lower body type, I mean, that's one of the big things here. One of the big things is swinging it across and doing it rapid. I mean, just by firing, being able to come back and forth. Also, you can do upper body stuff. I mean, they do what they call the tantrums. A lot of people, they don't understand. You take your hands. Your hands aren't quite as sensitive as your feet are, but you go out there and put your hands down on some rocks, you can still feel it. But we use our hands, we hardly ever cover our hands up unless, maybe some gloves every once in a while to do some manual stuff. Most people don't do much of that anymore either. But, you keep your hands have nerves. Your feet have nerve endings in them. So when you take those hands and those feet, and what they call the tantrums is just the rapid being able to fire it, that is sending triggering stuff up through there. Now people, I've seen them comment on Brian's stuff, man, what in the world is that stuff doing? I'm telling you, that is one of the fastest ways to kick in your ability to react, because you're firing all of that stuff, and it's like electricity. You think you take if you've ever seen some wires dangling, if you've ever seen wires dangling that the sparks are popping up off of it, that's basically what you're doing to your body when you hit those tantrums with your feet, with your hands. They use the physio ball, to tantrum it, put it up against the wall, and you're just trying to pat it as quick as you can. You can do it with your feet on it. You can flutter it, so you're hitting all these different things, but it's all goes to that nervous system. And you train your nervous system to be fast, you're going to respond faster. I mean, I'm 51. I still do the stuff myself now. Do I do it like the kids do it? Not most days, but I still get it going because, hey, I want to be able to. I'm longevity, and it's not so hard on your body. There's a lot of things that you can do that are hard on your body. When you're creating that central nervous system being ready to fire and react, then you're ready to go.
Now, on top of the physio ball, you talked about there a little bit ago, you do a lot of stuff with the tsunami bar.
Yes.
And looking into that and what you're looking for force absorption. Am I correct on that?
Yes. You're taking on the force. If you take like let's say bench press. I mean, everybody knows bench press. If you a normal bench press, and I say this too, there's kind of like the super cat, there's several ways that we'll use the tsunami bars. But the primary way is it's called a tsunami speed bar. If you think about a tsunami wave, the wave comes in and then the wave pulls out. You take a hurricane just wham. I mean, hurricane just hammers you. All right. And that's kind of what a regular bar does. I mean, the regular bar just kind of hammers us. But that tsunami bar, the wave comes in and the wave comes out. That's what you want. I call it wings, because with the tsunami bar, the bar bends. Okay. So if I'm coming down in a bench press, the bar is bending, so it's coming over my chest, so it's bending like this. So it's bending down. So I'm not just lowering the bar. I'm violently pulling the bar like you do a rope, like you do a rope. So I'm pulling the bar as violently as I can. To be able to do that, this has got to relax in a sense. So it's elongating. This is elongating. The back is shortening. Okay. So I'm elongating the chest. The back is shortening. So this is spring loaded, and I can be violent with it. Now, when I get to the top, and it's a process. We teach kind of a process. The process first we teach is just learning to do this. Okay. So we're catching that. You feel the wave going up and down as you got it right there. And then once you let it go 3 or 4 times, and wham, you want to hit it at the top. You feel that wave going at the top. Now, once you get that feeling, I want to ride that wave. Wham, wham. Soon as it gets here, soon as I know it's here and I'm elongated, that's when I'm reacting with it. So the force that you have to put into that thing is from the force that you've absorbed, or you've taken on. You've taken on this force, and you take the bar with a 45 on it is 105 pounds. And if say you're a 300, 400, 500 pound bench presser, and you can really pull that thing, or you can row, and you violently pull that thing, that's what you pull on yourself. The more that you can create, so the more that you can pull on. So when I do it, the weight at the bottom, I'm telling you, I'd like to know. I really would like to know. I wish and they do some tests. They've got some tests with the tsunami bars, and man, those things can generate over 2,000 pounds of pressure. If you can do it, they got a machine that can do it. Humans, the strongest human, Ray Williams, who squat, world's strongest man squat. I mean, he squatted over 1,000 pounds. I can't remember how many times now. I got Ray set up with some, and he did 15 reps. He said, man, that's the worst thing I've ever felt in my life. He's like, He's like, it's crazy what that bar will do. And I said, I told you, I said, it's just amazing. And the other thing I like about it, it doesn't put the stress on your body. The way it takes place, it just kind of covers your whole body. It makes everything engage instead of like a regular bar. You kind of puts everything down the center of your body. With the tsunami bar, it brings everything into action. I mean, everything kind of reacts off of it. But I'll tell you this: we had and it's kind of funny story, but we had a guy that a couple years ago, and we were in a basketball game. Well, and it's not promoting this or nothing, but this happened. All right. So we're in a basketball game, and man, they've been fouling. Refs weren't calling any fouls and stuff. Well, these two guys jump on this guy. And like, of any guy on that court, like, why would y'all jump on this guy? Like, I mean, he was the alpha, you know? I mean, you just like, he ain't the one to jump on. But so they jump on him and they push him and they shove him. Well, he reacts and he punches the guy. And I mean, lays the guy out. And again, I'm not promoting this. I'm just saying what happened. And it was just a reaction. I mean, he was sorry he did it afterwards. But the funny part about it, so we finally get into the back, and I walk in the door. He said, "Man, those tsunami bars really do work." And I said, you know, and that's how he reacted to it. It's like the response that he had to be able to put off that kind of explosion just out of just a reaction. He's like, "Man, those tsunami bars really do work." So we actually named one of the presses. We named it after that. We called it the KO press because that's what happened. But that's what it teaches. It teaches the violence and reacting speed. And you get that and you start doing that, and it trains your body up. I had another guy, he's getting ready for the combine, and you know, you got the 225 bench, so you're going to prepare. I mean, you know all these things now, so you prepare for them because they look at those. They look at those things, and they like the testing. And Marinovich is actually the one that set up most of the stuff on the combine. So the 225 bench, you know, people look at it and be like, wow, well, I mean, you're looking at speed, endurance, really. I mean, because you got roughly 30 seconds, roughly, maybe, and you better get what you can out of those 30 seconds. I mean, some may go just a tad longer. Most may be under that 30 seconds. But when you go and you're doing that, like, you got to move. You got to move that bar. So he was training for it. He'd gotten 16 reps, I think, was the best that he'd gotten at that time. So we had just gotten the tsunami bars, and I had gone for 2 months, and that's all I did with tsunamis. I just, you know, I want to learn it. I want to see what different things we can do with it. And like I said, like the Super Cat, we do some oscillatory stuff where the bars really oscillating. We get it to going, and the more that you learn to do that, it's kind of like that touch reflex. You know, you're learning to turn the muscles and everything on at the right time, and you get that time. But I've been doing that for about 2 months, just doing different things with it. And you can load up 195 is the top on the speed bar that you put on there. And again, like I said, 195 ain't really 195. I mean, 195 becomes whatever you can make it become, really, because the faster that you can move that bar, the more pressure that you start feeling at both ends and through the push or through the pull. So I got it, and I got it going, and I was doing it, and I was like, man, I just feel strong. It's got a 2-inch grip too. So your hands are having to really grab, kind of like the feet, you know, your hands are learning to really react to the bar. So I've been doing that for, I don't know, almost 2 months at that time. And one day I was like, I'm going to put 225 on the bench and see what it feels. I hadn't done any straight bar in that time. And I kind of say this is a warning too. All right, so I get the straight bar with 225 on there, and I'll pick it up, and I'm like, I don't even feel it. Like, it's like almost feels like I'm got nothing. And I just did like I've been doing that bar. So I pull it and I throw it. I throw 225, and I have to catch 225. Like if you watch some of those Adam Archuleta videos of when they're dropping them, and when we do some of that, the drop and the catch. 225 went out of my hands, and I don't know exactly how high it was. I didn't have it recorded, but it went a pretty good ways up, and I caught that 225, and I caught it like it's a football. And I was like, number one, remember to really hold on to that bar when you get it after you've been doing the tsunamis like that. But number two, I was like, this right here works. So anyway, I started working with Chris, and we started doing that. And he ended up hitting 27 reps of 225 as a wide receiver, and that was up 11 reps from what the best he'd ever done. And that, that getting to that 16 was just a grind. He threw those 27, so it's so that the proof is there, and that's what it was invented for. David Abernathy kind of came up with the concept. He was using, he's doing it because he coached linemen and did strength, so he was trying to get the linemen to be able to punch. So we started out with PVC and things like we maybe have come up with ourselves, and ended up getting to this bar, and this bar is almost indestructible. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I've moved it pretty good, and I've had some guys that can really move it. Couple of high school guys that could really move it. They were usually the most explosive guys. And yeah, I can give you that tsunami bar, and I'll tell you about how fast you can run a 40. I mean, just by the way that you can move that thing. Got a kid out in Nevada, Michael Coates Jr., one of the top DBs in the country. The kid's like a cat. I mean, his reactions. He can move that bar so fast. And I don't even know. We've never tested like a max on anything with him, but like, of course, I'm sure they do out there, but like his ability to explode and the way that his central nervous system reacts is crazy. And that's one of the big things that those guys liked. And when we implemented the super cats in with it, I mean, that's what those guys want. They want that. They want the plyometric stuff that we do with this really focus more towards Marinovich and how they implemented just the principles. Like Brian says, a lot of times it's not just the drills that you may see him do. Like you can use different drills, and like he would use different drills as the principles. If you get that 0.15, you get the principles all laid down, then you're ready to do what the system is designed to do. But and they like the J Stroh, they like the ISO extremes, and so it's you look at that, and when they come in and that's what they want, it kind of helps you to understand like these are elite level athletes. These are guys. These are some of the best in the country, and they come in and like this is what we want to be able to get ready for this upcoming season because. When they come in, I mean, may have them a week or so at Christmas, 2 weeks at Christmas, something like that. Summertime, you get a few, get maybe a month, 5-6 weeks, and like we start out just getting them ready. I mean, getting ready to go back, and so I take that and I take how they react to it. I take how I myself react to it, and then that's kind of how we break down the rest of the program.
Now you coupled with Jay Schroeder stuff, because you've talked about it a few different times in there. What got you down that rabbit hole?
Well, I'll tell you, it kind of goes back to when I was a kid. I loved, back when I was growing up, Memphis wrestling was the top stuff. And, man, they had, all these crazy guys come on there, and, you had the strong guy and you had the explosive guys and stuff. Well, there was a guy by the name of Joe LeDuc. He was a lumberjack. That was his character. He's a lumberjack. And, back then, those guys, it wasn't like now. I mean, it's kind of the entertainment back then. Like don't tell them it, those guys were legit tough guys. So Joe LeDuc, he carried a big axe around, man, and they'd show him pulling vehicles and stuff. And so I was like, man, how do you get like that strong to be able to stop planes and things like that they were showing him doing? So I found in a wrestling magazine, it was a thing, and it talked about his training, and basically what it was isometrics. I mean, it just showed all kind of different isometrics, stuff that you could do, just trying to pull your hands apart, trying to push your hands together, getting up against the wall, things like that. And man, I started doing it because I wanted to be like Joe LeDuc. So that's really where it started. All right. Then fast forward a couple of years, I get into playing football and had two great coaches that were ahead of their time as far as the strength world was, and that whole community that we grew up in. I mean, there was several guys that NFL, playing NFL, NBA, you name it, boxers. I mean, we had a guy, he was a boxer and fought like Roberto Duran and them. And, we'd follow him around town like Rocky when he was running. Came up in just the best situation to do what I do as a strength coach. Well, one of my coaches told me, he said, if you want to get as strong and as powerful as you could possibly be, he said, let me give you one simple thing. He said, try to push that wall down and keep trying to push that wall down and keep trying to push that wall down. And, it didn't really resonate to me until, some years later. And now, looking at the Jay Schroeder stuff and going back like to the Shaolin monks, if you look at them and the things that those cats can do, and that is a big part of their training. You'll see the little kids up on the up on the logs, and they'll be in like a horse stance or different things, or one-legged, and man, they're up there for hours. I mean, Jay Schroeder stuff, 5-minute extremes, and those are very tough and very mentally challenging to do. But when you look at those cats, and they're going for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours of doing that, being able to put their bodies, but then you see them bounce like a jaguar, or a cheetah or something, the way that they can explode. And I mean, I started doing it. I mean, I started doing it way back when I got that little pamphlet that came for 5 cents out of the wrestling magazine. But and then my coach kind of fast forwarded that. And, when I started getting into, after high school, started really getting into more of training, just started training athletes because I was the guy that lifted, I was the guy that studied it all the time, and results started happening. People started having results. So we the isometrics and we call them isometrics and isometric extreme slows, that they're kind of different. I mean, we understand like the extreme slows. I'll tell the guys when we're doing like the lunge or doing like a push up in an extreme position, you're consistently pulling, but it's at the slowest pace. And I'll tell them, like when we're doing a lunge, I said, there's a hole in this floor. We have to use our imagination a lot in here. We jump over rivers and alligators and whatever, whatever will get them up higher, man. There's a bear fish that gets you run fast. But, I tell them, I said, imagine you have an elephant hanging from a rope around your waist, and you're trying to lower it as gently as possible, so when it touches the ground, you can't even hear it. That's the slowness. I've heard them say some of the interviews, different ones, that you're thinking about running 100-meter race in 2 hours. So, and you think about that stuff, and you think, well, that's just slow. But when you're doing the extremes and you look at somebody and you start seeing the electric system running through muscles in the legs and how it's twitching, there's really nothing faster than that. The way that your body starts having to respond in the recruitment. And that's what they talk about, is the recruitment of the fast twitch muscles to be able to endure the longevity of the slow eccentric. And that's really what it is. I mean, it's called isometric, but it's really a slow eccentric. So the Jay Schroeder stuff is really good. And it's a lot common with Marinovich. And the Marinovich, like Brian and them, they're using a little more weight. They still use the principle, but at first it was more just like on the Supercat, just empty Supercat, going as fast as you can. Well, now it's more like and I'm just throwing out a number. Like if you can put 200 pounds on there and you can still move it at 0.15, then we're good. If you put 500 pounds on there and we still move it at 0.15, then your system is getting stronger and more powerful, more explosive. So, so that, that's kind of where it's advancing. Man, everything's advancing, but we always go back and we can study history. We can see back in the days of the Romans and the Egyptians and different ones, how they trained. And I mean, you're talking about warriors. I mean, you go back in the days when people, slew 1,000 people. I mean, they were pretty good. They was all right shape. I mean, they could go. So, you look at a lot of that stuff, and that's kind of what I've done over all the years. I've just studied the history, and I take and I put stuff in the toolbox, and getting it all in the toolbox, and then being able to mix it right. I mean, if you're making a cake, you want to go buy a recipe that is good. If you don't really know how to bake, but if you're a baker, you know how to take the different ingredients and mix it into the bowl and stir it up and make it come out good. Hey, this week, we were up in Gatlinburg for a couple of days with my folks, and we went by this place, Bush's Baked Beans. They have a place up there where they make the bushes, where they put them on, can them all and stuff. Where it's a little restaurant across the road. Well, my mom-in-law is one of the best cooks. My wife can cook. I mean, her whole family, they cook. And I like to eat, so it's all goes good together. But, that we went to that Bush Baked Bean, and I was looking at the menu, and it had a pecan pie with baked beans. And I'm like, that just don't, I mean, those things don't sound right together. But you put it in the right person's hands, they know how to make it be good. And that's what we really are as strength coaches. Being able to take, we need to be a good baker. We need to be able to take and be able to blend the right combination of things together to produce what we want to see. And that's kids that can perform to the top of their abilities.
Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, you're from the South, so you'll get it. You don't use room temperature butter in your biscuits.
No, we don't do that.
You use chilled butter, and sometimes that's the subtlety that makes the change, right?
It is.
It's butter. It's all butter.
It's all butter.
But the way them biscuits come out is totally different.
It's different, man.
Now, I'd listened to some Jay Schroeder stuff, and I've looked into it, and we've done a little bit. I'm not deep in it, but I do like the way he explains it. If you put somebody into an isometric position, if you don't change their thinking, it's not going to be as effective. And this kind of almost goes back to the butter.
Right.
If an athlete's just holding a position, he's not going or she's not going to get out of the movement what they would if they learn to pull themselves into a position.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like I was saying with the tsunami bars. You have to learn to pull, and it's a squat, whatever you're doing with it, you learn to pull in position. And with those isometrics, you're learning to pull into the deepest positions. David Bauer, he's another good one that people can look him up. He's on Instagram and probably on other stuff too. But he's trained under Jay. And if you look back, man, Jay trained a lot of the top guys back in the 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, middle. I mean, he trained a lot of the top guys, and or trained. A lot of the guys were trained by people that Jay had trained, and they were different. I mean, every one of them were different. They were just their mentality, and that's what our guys have learned in the pulling. And that's why I use the lowering of the elephant as slow as possible. I'm continually pulling, and like with a lunge, the hamstring, you feel that elongating, and man, I mean, it's just amazing stuff. And to me, it's as much as the physical, and they call it the pipes, the psychological and intellectual. physiology, I mean, all that. But it's really the mind, man. You learn to go to places you didn't think you could go. And when you do that, I know Elijah Holyfield is one of the guys David Bauer trains, and they were doing an interview with him. I heard an interview with him, and he said, it just makes you Tommy John. He's another good one that has a lot of the same principles and use the same principles. But you get to a place like you see a truck coming, and you're like, in your mind, you're like, I think I can stop that thing. I mean, because you pushed your body to that place, like that's a new challenge. Let's go, bam, stop that truck in its tracks. Now, again, we're not advocating to go out and do that, but that's the kind of mindset that you get with that. Now, take that mindset and put it on a football field. Take that mindset and put it in a batter's box. Take that mindset and put it on the free throw line with the game on the line. The confidence that you get from going beyond, that is the greatest value. And I think that going back to the Shaolin monk, I think that is why because the original Shaolin monk, I mean, they were training to be able to defend. They were training to be able to go to war if need be. Now, they weren't trying to initiate war, but if need be, they knew how to mentally and spiritually and intellectually get to that place of being like, let's go. And when we think about athletes, I mean, what is the ultimate goal that we're looking for them to be? Like, let's go. We're down 30. Let's go. One of the local teams actually down the road, man, one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. You'll hear him coming up here. But he has that mentality. Last night, they were down, I think it was 34-16. They were down 34-16, 5 minutes left. They came back and won the game. And it's, the South half going to the state championship. They came back because I'm telling you, I didn't even have to know. I'd messaged him before the game. I was like, get it done. And he messaged me back, got it done. They have that mentality, and that's what the Jay Schroeder stuff, it really creates a mentality. I mean, you get stronger, you get faster, you get more explosive, but mentally, you go to a place that no other system that I know of is going to push you to that place. And it goes back to the Eastern Bloc training, the Shaolin monk, the different place. I mean, the mental capacity that those guys and girls back in those times, they were up for the challenge. They embraced the challenge. They had a competitive nature, and it comes from competing against yourself. When you get in that 5-minute lunge and you get to about 3, I mean, when you get to where you can do the 5 minute, when you get to about 3 minutes, it's like quit. And you have to find that place that says, no, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep pushing. And, when I've got the guys in here, we're doing those, and we'll do them different ways. I mean, we'll do them like with holding weights. We'll be doing the drop stuff that they do, different things like that. But when we're just in there, and the way that I got them to really start doing that pull down, I took a slider, a carpet slider. We've got a little slab of turf in here, about 15 yards turf, and it's probably 7 wide, 8 wide, something like that. But we take that carpet slider and put it up under the ball of your foot. And you get in position, leave your heel down, get in position. And once you get in position, slightly pull that heel off. So now, if you're not pulling into position, you're fixing to do a split. I mean, your leg is fixing to shoot out. So that front foot is engaged and actively pulling. That hip is pulling to the ground. That back foot is pushing through the big toe. So the big toe is really, really bent here. So you're getting that, and that foot is pushing forward. You're elongating the the hip flexor, you're squeeze the butt. I mean, you get, and that pull right there. And within seconds, most of the time, they're trembling. They're trembling. And that tremble is the body awakening stuff that hadn't been used to firing. And once they start firing that stuff, and if you can get them to the point that they'll stay in it, and they don't just do it right off the bat. Most of the time, it takes a little time. Every once in a while, you'll get that guy, you'll get that girl that's like, they don't care if it's the first time they've done it. Like, we're going to keep doing it. I mean, every once in a while, you get that one. But most of the time, those people that get in it, that once they start twitching, once it gets uncomfortable, I got to quit. That's what you're working past. You're working past that quit. You're working to get to that. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep going. Let's keep striving. We're going to make it. Somehow we're going to make it. Somehow my body is going to respond and recruit everything it needs to be recruited to go through the longevity of it.
And then doing that, some of Jay Schroeder's idea was to be strong at the farthest point. So you're actually you're actually gaining strength as your competitor's getting weaker.
Exactly. And it does. I mean, and they say it's like I can't remember the exact degrees down or the exact, you get to this point right here, but you're affecting up here and down here as well. You know what I mean? You're affecting both ways. So you think that you're just hitting this spot here, but in actuality, you're hitting you're hitting a bigger gap than you think you are. And you realize it, after you've done them for a while. And I mean, I've been doing them for several years now, myself. This week, I was up there, and every morning I'd get in my lunge, do my lunge and both legs, and that's probably the worst part about it. It's like you get that one leg done, like get that other leg, and you gotta regroup every time. It don't matter how many times you do it. It's like a competitiveness every time that you do them, and they use Jay uses the 5 minute is like the ultimate extreme, and of course, you can go 5 minutes, get there at one shot, or sometimes, and most of the times, it's going to be for most people that 30, that 45 seconds, that 60 seconds, maybe get in the 90-second range, maybe hit into that 2 minute range. Some people in that 3 minute, and they just. And the key is to just get back in it as quick as you can. I mean, you want to get back in it. You want to embrace it. You want to not let it kind of win. I mean, even though you may have had to stop for just 5, 6, 7 seconds, like, I'm getting back in it. I'm going. And over time, you get to the place that you keep pushing past it. I push past a little further. I push past a little further. And you get to that place where that 5, that people, I've heard them, different ones say, was there anything magical about the 5 minutes? And I don't know that it's necessarily magical, but I do believe that when you get to that 5 minutes and that's what you're working forward to, and that goal, I think it's the goal. You get to that goal, and there's some of them they push it, they push past that 5, going to 7 and 10, and where's the cutoff? I don't know. I mean, you look at the Shaolin monks, and they didn't really have one. I mean, they just kind of kept pushing that envelope, and they just became more and more resilient. So now, if you take and put that foot on that slider and do them that way, and you can engage that thing and really pull. I mean, really pull. I'm talking about just you're trying to pull down as hard as you can, but as slow as you can. You go for 60 seconds to a minute 30 on that one. You've engaged some things. You maybe have started crying. I mean, you've gotten emotional over this deal because it's just so many things that are happening. And I think that's why they call it pipes. It's covering a lot of ground. It's really covering your whole physiology. I mean, everything about us.
Now, how much of Verkhoshansky stuff do you use? How much shock loading are you into?
A lot. No, we do drops. I got, you can probably look back through Instagram. Man, I had a kid. This kid was like, he just bounced. He could bounce kind of like Mike out in Nevada. Just had this bounce about him. But there are pictures where we've gotten him at his highest place. Now he's jumping off of boxes. Okay, so he's jumping off of boxes. Man, he's landed somewhere 20 feet or better, and just bounce. So the drops, the altitude drops, I believe it. Because and you take it and you blend those two things together with Schroeder, Berkoshansky, the Marinovich, and Marinovich is all about the bounce. They don't really do a lot of just sticking it and absorbing the force, and where the other side of the spectrum is they do. They learn to absorb it, and then they learn to replicate out of it. And so both are. I like both. I like doing both of them, but dropping off of that, I know Dan Victor. He says that your body won't, or your mind won't let your body jump higher than your body is basically believes it can withstand the force of dropping from. So you take there's a kid down the road. He's a 5-star. He had committed to Alabama. He's going to Ole Miss now, but man, he's a freak. He's a freak of nature. The dude, first time he comes down. We get a lot of kids from the surrounding area that come in and train sometime, or come in and play basketball. We're kind of open like that, to we're here to help everybody. So he came in, and this kid was in the 9th grade. He's a senior this year. He was in the 9th grade. And I was like, man, they tell me that you can dunk pretty good. So he takes off. He takes off from the free throw line, goes between his legs, and somehow shifts back, and he dunks. I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Like, you pretty special, man. You are going to be a special cat. He is, man. He's one of the top, maybe number 2 receiver in the nation right now. Just a special athlete, just a freak athlete. He, basketball was but you take him, dude, you can drop him off of a building and he's going to land. And so everything that they talk about, you look at these guys that can go to the extreme. Chris Blair plays for the Atlanta Falcons. He's one of my guys, man. We've been going at it for 7 years or better. And there's a thing in here on our wall where it's a 10-foot ceiling. And going back to like the dunking, man, all my kids coming in here, man, they're jumping up and they're putting their palms up above the 10-foot mark. And I'm like, but they go into the basketball gym. It's like, man, we got to be able to dunk. I was like, you have the ability, but like you got to practice dunking too. But it goes back to the mental, mentally, they jump up here and touch this 10 foot, and they're really going about 10 and a half. It's where their hands are going. But mentally, they didn't think they could dunk. But then they start figuring it out. Like, oh, well, I can get that high. Well, there's another spot up there where we're Winston Academy, the WA. If you see that little triangle, there's a spot out there on the wall that has a little triangle. And Chris could get up there and catch a ball in that triangle. And man, that thing's like 13 and a half feet. It's like crazy. But our bodies can do a lot more than we think they can a lot of times when we just react. And that's what really both of those two systems teach the body to react. And when you're doing the depth drops, and you start realizing that you're dropping from 20 feet, you start changing. You start changing your ability to do other things, and you start seeing it, and you start seeing how those two things correlate together. And, with all the study that Berkoshansky, and they had all these people that were going off of that. And, I probably started on a lot of that training even before I knew either one of these other two, because it's been out for forever. And back in the day, if you'd have to like be watching Wild World of Sports or something like that back before ESPN and all this, and you just catch little glimpses of things, so all that, like Jerry Rice chasing hard. Jerry Rice actually grew up right down the road from where I live. I don't know, about 15 miles, and they say that Jerry Rice would go out there and run and chase his horses, and then get the horses to chase him. I mean, and people don't even think, they measured Jerry Rice. He ran like a 4.5. That was running a race, chasing, try to catch him. It was just different. I mean, he maybe couldn't hit the times on those 40s when they would time him, but you put him in a game situation, you never saw. Go back, look at film. He didn't get caught. He played with some of the fastest guys of all time. He didn't get caught. Walter Payton, you talk about the drops. You always see Walter running up the hill. His brother, of course, they're from Mississippi. Eddie Payton, his brother, said that one of the things that they didn't ever see, or he didn't show, was running down hills. So you think same thing with the depth drops, the runs, you're having to respond, and your body's having to respond. And, so all of those things coupled together, the depth drops are some of the best things I believe that you can do, because the amount of force that happens because of the weight of the body and all these things multiplied up. I mean, you start being able to take on a lot. And like with Jay's stuff, if you look at a lot of the different training, I mean, you're doing 100+ drops at 30+ inches, 30, 40, whatever they work up to. But you do that over and over and over, and your body's ability to respond from that gets to be pretty resilient.
Now, we do some of that. I'll be honest, I haven't seen great carryover, and maybe we need to do more. But the one thing I do see from that is if you put ground contact times on them, you can start improving their reactability.
Right.
And where I've noticed it the most is everybody wants springy athletes. Well, most athletes aren't springy when they come in. They're really good off the high boxes. Like their ground contact times are really good off high boxes. But the low boxes, they're not very good.
Not very good.
So is that something that you've noticed? And then if it is, how do you start improving that?
Right. That's it is. I mean, and you think about the low box. So you don't have as much of take a spring, like, we think about a spring and pushing the spring down. You jump off the low box, the spring may go here. Okay. You jump off that high box, the spring compresses more. So you've got more spring off of that. Now, when we get to be able to come off that low box and create that same pressure as you do coming off a high box, that's the carryover. It's a picture. I mean, and like I said, everything we have to do in here is pictures. With like hurdles, you see a lot of people jump hurdles, and it's not that we don't do that, but like having it in here, setting it up, and especially we probably this year we're lower numbers, but the athletes that we have, most of them can do about the same stuff, which is awesome. In the past, you had that 2 or 3 that just weren't at that same place. So you got hurdles in there. Instead of trying to raise or lower it, jump your hurdle, jump your box, jump over your creek, and we got some lines. I mean, it's just football lines that we have set up here. Kind of looks like a little football field on the turf, but those lines, they come out of the ground, they're walls, they're barbed wire fence. We're country. I mean, we got barbed wire fence, jump over that barbed wire fence. If you're running out through the woods and you come up on a barbed wire fence and you're running, you better get over that barbed wire fence, because the results are not going to be good. So that's the same kind of principles that we use, try to put a little scare tactic in there a little bit. But, like run from the bear. The bear is going to catch you. But that's the picture that I give a lot of times with athletes. And it goes back to the 0.15. Think about touching something hot. Just about everybody's touched something hot, not meaning to, but everybody's about to touch that stove eye that hadn't been cut off long enough, and it's hot. It's still hot, or picked up something that's hot, and you don't hold on to it. You're not going to sit there and let your hand burn up. You're going to get that hand off as quick as that's your body's safety response, I guess you'd say. But so that's how I take most things, and most of the time that they get it. Most of the time they get it. Every once in a while, it's not a foolproof deal. Every once in a while, it takes more and more of having to explain to somebody, but for the most part, they start getting it, and using things like that, just like the spring, it's kind of self-explanatory. Things like that's what I'd use.
Okay, well, I've had you on here quite a while, so we'll get close to bringing this thing around, but we've talked about it a little bit on eccentrics, but poor eccentrics create poor absorption, and that's what leads to a lot of your injuries, is your inability to absorb the force. So are you mixing your eccentrics slow? I mean, obviously we talked about incredibly slow eccentrics, but are you also including really dynamic eccentrics?
Yes, we do, and that's one of the other things with the with tsunami bars, with the and we do some with regular bars too. I mean, we ain't really talked about that. I mean, but we still do all the basic lifts and stuff, and we learn all the Olympic lifts and all the different things that go with that. But with the tsunami bars, we'll do like rapid drops, like say a squat. Or a lunge. I mean, you can go a lunge, and whenever you drop with that, we'll like go up on our tiptoes. Go up on our tiptoes, and then boom, just drop. And when you do with that tsunami bar, you create that wave down. All right, and then we'll stick it so you've got the quick response eccentric, just like you went to make a jump cut or something along those lines, or breaking down to be able to have to make a tackle. So you get that, you get all of that, bam. So everything's got to turn on to catch it, to catch it. And we try to catch it, and I just tell them, like, this is how much movement I want, about that much. So if I'm catching it here, I may have just that little bit of stretch right there. And I said, but you don't want to just catch it and just swoop, where you're not really catching it. I was watching a video yesterday. Matter of fact, I shared it on, I don't know if it'd still be up to date, but shared it with Ozzie Smith. And I was thinking about this morning, as kind of preparing my mind for questions and stuff. But it's a video of Ozzie Smith. To me, still probably the greatest shortstop ever. I mean, you're up from Missouri, so you probably like Ozzie. But Ozzie Smith was catching the ball, and it was just like it was just boom. And what he was doing is like coming down his glove, and it's just, so he was able to do it so fluidly that it almost looked like it wasn't touching his glove, So you think about the eccentric, the fast eccentric, he was able to do that so quick. If it was slowed down, you would see it actually hit and absorb and come out to the other hand. So that's what we look at, is the fast drops, and we'll do fast drops with a bench press. Just boom, catch it here, and we have some. We don't do it with a lot of younger guys, but some of the older guys, they can drop in and catch it. Drop the bar, catch the bar, kind of thing. We use PVC pipes. Do a lot of the here, and I'm catching it here, or if I catch it, boom, in the response to it. But you see those quick reactions. So when I can catch it here this quick, and it's like dropping I have a video of you. I'd probably have to go back there for a while, but one of the guys training last year for track, and like, I mean, he's not winning state or nothing in track or nothing, but he loved track. He wanted to be the best that he could be. And that's what I push a lot of times, man, because it's just very few people get to the NFL, get to the NBA, but like, be the best that you can be. if the best that you can be in running a 40 is a 5 flat, it's a 5 flat. But if the best that you can be is a 5 flat and you're running a 5.2, like, we can get better, and everybody can progress. Everybody can get better. And that was just a dynamic of a 40. But when you think about that, man, with him, he trained so hard, and like, he's always been that guy. He's a senior this year, but he's always been that guy that would do the exercise. Like, I could be like, hey, show them how to do this. Like, cause he did everything right. But everybody has physical potential. And once you're trying to reach that potential, and some people's ceiling's higher than others. So you have to realize that. And we realize that as coaches, we realize that as people, we want to push people to get as good as they can be as good as they can be. So there's some of him dropping off of boxes. So they're 32-inch boxes, and he'll explode off the box, boom, and catch it. And I mean, it's just perfect. If you go back and look at Adam Archuleta, the video that kind of got Jay on the map as far as people, when they put that video on ESPN, he's getting ready for the combine, and they had a thing that they had built, and they were holding it up. The thing would hold up, and then it would drop down on him, and he would catch it. And then he talked about being put up in the air. I said, man, they throw me 7 foot up in the air, and I just spam. I had to hit it. Sports, that's what we do. It's the ability to create that force in the slightest amount of time. That 0.15, go back to the plyometric. So when you're dropping in those eccentrics and that overspeed eccentrics on the Super Cat, you can get on the back of it, or even on the handles of it. And whenever they say they're jumping up, they're jumping straight up, I'm pulling down. Okay. I'll pull down and I'll create that, get them back into that spot faster than it would without it. And they, and I understand how to do it. Most of our guys do because they felt it, and, it's kind of a technique about it. But once you start feeling it, and it's kind of like a basketball, the quicker your hand goes on the basketball, where we're putting the basketball on the ground, the basketball's bouncing. The closer you get to the ground, the basketball's going to bounce. You can bounce fast. It go faster than it can if you're waist high. You get it closer down the ground, that basketball can absorb, and it can just almost be blinded the speed that it's going. And so I think about that as, with the eccentrics, that's what that is, that ability to absorb and react, and also absorb and stick. Because sometimes you got to absorb and stick it. So just look at all the movement from that, and the slow eccentrics and the fast eccentrics. I mean, it's the combination. It's the combination of everything. It goes, like you had Cal Dietz on, and Cal, that's one of the triphasic, the isometric, the eccentric, and the concentric. And, I've heard him say before, some coaches have done different things with it, but they're still using the principles. It's the principles. It's the principles of Marinovich, principles of the Cal Dietz, the principles of the Berkenshanskys, the principles of Jay Schroeder. You take those principles and you kind of make them yours. You make them what you need for that. But you take those principles and use them to create what you're looking for.
Well, Coach, I've had you on here for quite a while. I enjoy watching your Instagrams. You are doing stuff different than what a lot of people are posting. So that had me a little curious. And then through time, we've talked to each other some, and we were able to set this up. And I really appreciate the time you give me today.
Man, hey, it has been a pleasure anytime, man. I love talking it. Talking it, man. It's just a pleasure to be on here.
Well, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll have to sit down and do this again.
Hey, be looking forward to it.